This is part two in a four-part series breaking down September elk hunting week by week. In part one, I covered the first 7 days of September. I'm looking for predictable feed-to-bed movement, finding the transition zone between those two areas, getting ahead of the elk, and using calling only when it helps me to finish an encounter. Week two starts changing. We're going to talk about that right now. Not because September 8th hits and every bull suddenly starts acting differently, right? Those changes happen gradually a lot of times, and they don't happen at exactly the same time in every herd or every drainage. So what am I actually looking for? Well, from roughly September 8th through the 14th or so, I'm watching for bulls to start separating, traveling more. They're rubbing a lot. Maybe they're rolling around in wallows. They're becoming more vocal, and they're spending more time looking for cows. Some elk might still be running the same pattern you hunted 4 days ago, but others might already be showing you that the pattern is changing. If I keep hunting what the elk were doing instead of what they're doing right now, I'm going to fall behind. Welcome to Backbone Unlimited. My name is Matt Hartsky. I've spent 34 years hunting and guiding Western big game, and week two is one of those periods of elk hunting when I'm paying very close attention to small changes in elk behavior. Maybe I hunted a transition zone successfully 3 mornings in a row. Same feed, same bedding area, same trail between them, same general timing, but then I go back in and the elk just aren't there. It doesn't seem like anything's around. I'm not going to sit there for 3 more mornings just because it was happening earlier in the week. So I start looking again. Maybe I glass a bull several hundred yards higher, or maybe I hear a bugle in a drainage that was quiet 3 days ago. Maybe there are new rubs in a saddle that I didn't have earlier on. Maybe a wallow that was cold is being hit now and it's cloudy in the morning. The elk are giving me new information and I need to use it. In the early September weeks, bulls can still be relatively predictable between feed and bedding, right? As we move further into the month, the testosterone in those bulls is going to continue to increase. The bulls are going to start separating from their bachelor groups, especially those older bulls. And the rut behavior is going to start becoming more noticeable. You're going to hear more bugling. You might find some more rubs, and they're not rubbing to rub velvet off anymore. They're rubbing to strengthen their neck for battle, right? You're going to see more wallowing in some places, and the bulls might start traveling further distances. Some of them are beginning to spend more time locating cows. And none of that means that every bull is ready for aggressive rut calling. A bull might be making an occasional bugle. It doesn't mean that he's automatically asking another bull to come challenge him. I want to know exactly what that bull's doing before I decide what sound, if any, that I'm going to make. Now, the transition zone system absolutely still applies here. Find the feed, find the bed, find the terrain between them. That's your number one play, especially if you can't see elk or they're not talking. Now, I'm not assuming that the same bull is going to use the same exact trail at the same exact time every morning. His movement might be expanding. He might shift to another drainage. He might begin using a different saddle. He might start checking areas where the cows are feeding. He might leave his old summer pattern completely. So I've got to keep working on locating. I've got to keep glassing. I've got to keep reading fresh signs. I've got to move with the elk if they're moving around. I need the current information though. I need fresh tracks. I need fresh poop. I need fresh rubs. I need fresh wallow activity. I need to try to determine direction of travel, elk that I can see or hear. And then I ask the same questions that you hear me ask all the time. How old is the sign? Which direction are the elk traveling? Why are they using this spot? Is there a repeatable pattern here? Can I hunt this area, this transition zone with good wind? Week two doesn't change anything about the system for me. It just changes what the elk are doing inside the system. You might also have one drainage where the bulls are still quiet and running predictable feed to bed routes, while another drainage has bulls bugling, traveling, and beginning to spend a lot more time with cows and trying to figure figure out their dominance over there. So I don't label either one wrong because of the date. I just hunt what I find and what I encounter and what they tell me. If the bulls are still grouped up, quiet, and moving predictably between feed and bed, I keep hunting them that way. There's no reason to force calling into an encounter that doesn't need it. If bulls are separating, they're moving more, they're rubbing, they're wallowing, they're starting to bugle, I start allowing calling to play a larger role in the picture. But I'm not just being super aggressive at that point yet. One of the easiest ways to mess up week 2 of September is hearing the first bull bugle and immediately turning the hunt into a calling contest. A bugle just gives you information. That's the first thing I use it for. Where is the bull? How far away is he? I've got the phone out. I'm trying to figure out what terrain he's in and where he's likely moving to. Is he currently moving right now, or is he just hanging out in the same spot? What does that terrain look like that he's in? What is the wind doing there? Does it look like I can close distance effectively on him or get ahead of him? Hey, if you hunt public land elk and you're tired of grinding through random seasons, I built the Elk Hunting series of ebooks for you. Most hunters don't struggle because they lack effort. They struggle because they lack a system. And that's exactly why I built the Elk Hunting ebook series as a complete progressive framework for Western elk hunters who are done guessing and ready to hunt with intention. Volume 1 is going to be Foundations and Reality. I reset your mindset and expose the assumptions that quietly wreck seasons. In Volume 2, Finding Elk and Understanding Pressure, you'll learn how elk actually move under pressure so you can anticipate instead of react. In Volume 3, Terrain, Wind, and Position, I break down how to use landscape and thermals to consistently create opportunities. In Volume 4, Calling, Silence, and Pressure, sound becomes a decision tool, not an impulse. In Volume 5, Bow Hunting Execution, we're talking about close range strategy so you can finish your encounters. And in Volume 6, Late Season and Post-Rut, we're talking about how elk shift after the rut and how to adapt when others quit. This is a system built for consistency. This isn't theory. It's a structured system to help you find elk, read country, and make confident decisions every season. Buy each volume individually or bundle them all to save 50% off at backboneunlimited.com. If a bull bugles on his own, I'm not answering him automatically. I'd rather stay silent and start moving and get in there close. Calling back's going to tell that bull where I am or where, that other bull is and exactly where I might be coming from. And that might, kind of just steer his awareness that direction. So I close the distance using whatever terrain lets me stay hidden and quiet a lot of times if he's bugling on his own. So got to keep your wind. Use creek bottoms, timber fingers, the ridge backs, the terrain folds, and steep ground. Anything that allows me to move without being seen, heard, or smelled at that point. I'm trying to get inside the bubble, which I call roughly 80 to 120 yards as being ideal. Sure, outside of that can work too in some cases, but the closer the better in my opinion. So before I start making calling decisions, I'm getting close. Closer the better when terrain, wind, cover, and noise all allow it. Then I'm approaching. Once I'm inside the bubble, I read the bull again. Is he alone? Does he have cows? Is he moving towards me? Is he holding his ground? Does he sound relaxed or does he sound all worked up? Can I move closer without calling? Those answers all determine what happens next. If he's a solo bull, I'm usually going to probably try to keep the interaction non-threatening. I'm going to use cow calls. A soft cow call can absolutely give him something to investigate. If I use a bugle, I prefer non-threatening trailing bugles or tail-end style bugles if I'm not sure whether he has cows or not. Or if he does have cows, that's absolutely how I'm starting the conversation. Not going in there and blowing a challenge bugle at him right off the bat. I just want a weak bugle sound to let him know that there's another bull getting close to him, and I let him escalate from there. I want him to know that there's another bull there without giving him too much reason to avoid me. So if he responds and starts moving my direction, I'm not going to keep calling either just because it worked once. I'm going to let him come, whether that was because he responded to a cow call or a bugle. If you have a bull coming, let him come. And he might get quiet along the way. Let him come. Every sound I make gives him more information to pinpoint me. If he stops and I need another small piece of communication to keep him coming, then I can give one. Try to throw it another direction, throw it behind me. Maybe I just use stomps or breaking some sticks or some gentle rubbing. Then I shut up again. If the bull has cows, the situation changes a little bit. Now I'm dealing with a bull that might have something to defend. Now I still absolutely want to get close before I get aggressive. I'm not trying to challenge him or even let him know I'm there from 300 yards away and hoping he leaves cows to come find me. I close the distance first. Inside the bubble, if I've confirmed he has cows and his behavior tells me he's willing to engage, that's where the challenge can become useful. But again, I'm not getting in there and using the challenge right off the bat. I'm using a trailing bugle, weak bugle. I want him to escalate first. Once he escalates to that, the conversation is open. Now it's time to fight, right? I've started off just being a nice guy. Hey, how's it going? Hey, I'm here. And if he wants to get angry about that, that gives me permission to use the next level of escalation. Now, the closer I can get before making that sound, again, that is the best scenario. Now I'm putting another bull inside his space instead of just trying to shout at him from across the drainage. That's a completely different interaction. Week 2 is also where I may start to use more bugling to locate. Very, very reserved in that way for me. I'm always starting with cow calls, maybe even then escalating to cow call through a bugle tube for distance, and then maybe a location bugle, but I'm not overcalling it, right? I make the sound. If I get an answer, I've learned where the bull is, I start moving. If I don't get any response, I'm not sitting there and repeating the bugle over and over again, right? I'm not moving 200 yards or 400 yards and just bugling again. I'm trying to read the information that I have. I don't need to stand on the ridge bugling back and forth with a bull either when he's 500 yards away. Once you locate him, once you use that call to locate him, feet need to be moving and doing the work. This is where a lot of elk hunters lose the encounter. They get an answer and they become afraid to stop calling and afraid to move. But the bull answered you. So he's aggressive, right? But these guys, they bugle again and he answers back and they bugle again. 5 minutes later, both sides know exactly what's going on here, but nobody moved. I would rather get the first piece of information, close the distance while I still have uncertainty working in my favor, and he's talking, which is a huge piece of the puzzle, right? Now, cow calls are also one of the most useful tools that you can use in September. So don't skip over that just because I started to talk about bugling. Again, I'm usually not trying to walk through the woods running long sequences of cow calls. That's not my game. A soft cow mew can absolutely get things going. It can turn up a solo bull. It can give a bull that already wants to investigate something a chance to move forward. It can also get a bull with cows to respawn and he's trying to call you over there. It can also finish the last part of an encounter, but I want to make sure that every call I use has a reason behind it. I'm not calling because I haven't heard anything for 10 minutes. I'm not calling because somebody told me September 12th is when I should start calling more. I'm not calling because I have some random hope that the call is going to solve all my elk hunting problems. I call because I have a read on a bull, a read on the terrain, a read on the elk behavior in the area, and I decided that sound gives me an advantage. You've also got to be willing to hunt later in the day. Week 1 was never a first light only hunt, and week 2 absolutely isn't either. Elk can certainly move through the middle of the day for a lot of reasons. A bull might be moving between cow groups, still investigating. He might get pushed by another bull. He might be using hunting pressure to change his route. He might get up from his bed and move a short distance to feed or go go get water. You might locate him late in the morning and finally get into position several hours later in the middle of the day. If I have elk located and the wind lets me hunt them, I'm not leaving simply because the morning movement period is over. I'm going to slow down. I'll still hunt if I have to, 2 or 3 steps. I'm not hunting bedding areas, but I might try to get in close to where I think that calling might be effective, or I can hunt him when he gets back up on his feet to move. I'm going to use glassing like crazy. I'm going to be checking the wind like crazy. I'm going to listen, and then I'll move a little bit more until I feel like I'm in a great position for when those elk are going to get up. Now, if I know there are elk in that timber, I'm going to hunt them instead of hiking back to the truck. Just because it's 10 o'clock doesn't change the game for me. If I know that there are elk there, there's a way that I can get myself into position to hunt them. So I'm still evaluating what they're doing, and I'm trying to get into position and improve that. I'm still trying to get ahead of movement wherever I can, and I'm absolutely checking the wind constantly. What changes here is the amount of information that the bulls start giving me and the number of ways that I'm able to use that information in my favor or against them. A quiet bull running a predictable feed to bed pattern, I've got to hunt the transition, I feel like. A bull that bugles on his own, I can stay quiet and get close. He's in trouble. A solo bull inside the bubble, oh baby, look out. And especially if he's responding to soft cow calls or non-threatening sounds, that's going to give him a reason to close the distance. A herd bull with cows, absolutely, close the distance first. If his behavior and the setup allow it, that's when I'm going to try to trigger his aggressiveness. A bull that's already coming, shut up. Stop calling. Let him come. Don't make this more complicated than it needs to be. My goal with all of my videos is to make elk hunting more simple for you once you wrap your mind around some of these principles and the systems that I'm trying to teach. And really, week 2 is about paying attention. The elk might still be behaving very similar to week 1 in a lot of places, but they might be starting to transition towards stronger rut behavior. You might see both on the same mountain. So my goal for you is to learn how to locate, evaluate what's going on, improve your position, execute the system, adjust if it didn't work. You got to keep reading the elk in front of you. Find the feed, find the bed, find the transition, watch for changes in their movement patterns. Use cow calls and bugles to locate when it makes sense. Close the distance before you start trying to call a bull into your setup. And never use more calling than the encounter requires. Now, in part 3, we're going to cover week 3 of September when more bulls are going to be with cows. Your rutting behavior becomes a much bigger part of the hunt, and the way I approach a herd bull starts to change. So tune in tomorrow for part 3. If you want to go deeper into the system I use to find elk, to read terrain, understand pressure, work the wind and thermals, build calling setups, and execute once you're close, start with my elk hunting ebook series at backboneunlimited.com. If you want ongoing coaching and a place to bring your questions throughout the season, join me on Team Backbone. If you want me to go through your specific hunt, your unit, your maps, your access, terrain, pressure, wind, thermals, overall strategy, you can book an elk hunt plan audit with me. And if preparation is the weak link for you, you're also going to find my hunting-specific training and nutrition plans based on my 30 years as a professional strength conditioning and nutrition coach at backboneunlimited.com. Choose the resource that fits where you are right now, and I would be happy to help you. Thanks again for being here. You know I appreciate each and every one of you. I'll see you in the comments. I look forward to reading those all the time, listening to your suggestions and comments. Until next time, train harder, hunt smarter, and never settle.